Yo, what's good? It's your boy, Raysean from the Raysean Gadson Anime Podcast, or RGAP for short. And on today's episode, we're interviewing special guest Derick Snow, a professional voice actor who is known for Windbreaker, The Prince of Tennis, and Fire Force. Join us as we dive into the world of voice acting, exploring Derick's personal journey and achievements, uncovering his anime origin story, and discussing our least favorite anime characters. We'll also share tips for anyone out there trying to get into voice acting. If that sounds interesting to you, then sit back and enjoy the ride.
When I'm nervous, my face compulsively tightens in such a way that my teeth are exposed. That is... I tend to smile when I feel tense. Honestly, I just wanted to be a hero.
It's extremely difficult to achieve.
The thrill you experience scoring a goal. The exhilaration that washes over you. Finding a new weapon.
And that's called ego.
Yup, I know. You mad? You gonna cry? One-on-one! One-on-one! It's all good, friend. Your guys messed with us first. Plenty of reason to duke it out, don't you think? Well, I gave you a good hard poku, Mei, and I'm pretty sure that calls for some big-time payback. Take your turn, step up to the plate.
You've done nothing wrong, but you two are property and don't get a say in how you're treated, so we don't really need a reason to do whatever we want. Your owners have every right to deal with you as they see fit, since you are their possessions. Oh, young master, you're only making yourself look more pathetic. Why do you keep making excuses? Is it because you're afraid of your father, or afraid to end another man's life? Or could it be both?
Before we get started, I just want to allow my guest the opportunity to introduce themselves. Basically, tell everybody where you're from, what you do, and also tell us your two least favorite anime characters and why are comic book heroes.
Hello, world. My name is Derick Snow. I'm a voice actor in lots of silly anime and some video games. You probably best know me as maybe Shinra Kusakabe in the anime Fire Force, or maybe Ego, the head coach of the Blue Lock organization in that show. Or, I don't know, maybe in My Hero Academia, I was part of the Shie Saikai Mimic. Or more recent shows like Chainsaw Man, I get to voice a character named Beam. Over 150 different anime characters at this point. I've been working strong. Brand new fun stuff I've been on, like Dragon Ball Daima just came out in movie theaters this week. I'm part of that cast. Life's good, baby, with more to come. And if I had to say, we were talking about maybe least favorite, I don't like to go negative, but if I'm going to go negative, I'm not going to disparage the beautiful world of anime. I'm going to go into my childhood where there were comics like Spider Pig, or maybe it was Spider Ham. I can't remember. I blocked it out. But at the time, I hated it because I loved Spider-Man. He was my favorite comic. And it was awful at the time. But now, as an adult, I can appreciate it. Another thing that I hated, but now I can appreciate a little bit more, a comic book called Howard the Duck, for two reasons. One, I thought that they were ripping off Donald Duck, and I think they actually got sued, but they didn't lose that out there. But then a movie came out that I hated, and mostly because my brother's name is Howard, and I love my brother. So all the bullies used to call him Howard the Duck, and now here we are, 30 years later, and Howard the Duck is thriving in the Marvel Universe. I'll take it.
Okay, them some good picks. Them are some good picks. We were talking about that earlier. I need to check out Howard the Duck. I didn't know they made a movie. I've heard about the character in the newest movies, but I didn't know they made a movie.
Yeah, the original movie was in the late 80s, and like I said, maybe some bad drug-based decisions in the writers' room were probably involved when that happened, and they believed, and then it bombed.
Man, I wonder how much plot storyline they was able to come up with it, because that's just an interesting character. We're gonna use Howard the Duck. Does he have any powers? No? He's going to be a drunk?
Smokes a cigar and drinks and dates beautiful women. Good job, Howard.
Well, moving on to my two least favorite characters. I went the route of anime. For my first one, I chose Sho Tucker from Full Metal Alchemist. I feel like anybody that sees this anime automatically hates this guy. This guy he basically took his family and turned them all into chimeras, only further his research. And then at the end of it, he basically just, it's like, well, dang, you have nothing now. It's so horrible. For my second one, I chose Danzo from Naruto. All his scheming and stuff he has done over the years has literally tarnished the name of the third Hokage and destroyed his legacies from all the people he's individually has messed up their lives and everything. And the fact that he committed the murder of the Uchihas. Yeah, it was no point of really keeping his character in Naruto, but you know, you gotta have some bad guys, you know what I mean? You can't have a story without no antagonists.
You know, bad guys are the kind of characters that you love to hate. Without them, how could you look up to the heroes as much as if you hated the bad guys?
True. And the funny thing is, if I could like be a voice actor or get into it, I would love to play villains because I just feel like villains get more time to express their emotions and stuff like that. So I would love to be a villain.
There's something fun about, I've gotten the opportunity to voice from heroes, clearly like Shinra Kusakabe, to baddies. There's shows like a Shy, kind of a newer thing where I voiced this devil character named Doki, where he was just a real a-hole, but it's fun to chew scenery up. But the problem with that is inevitably you're going to die. So you're going to get a couple of great monologues and you're going to get exploded or arrested. Just look at what happened to the Shiehei Saikai, the Yakuza in My Hero Academia. It didn't end well for Mimic and the gang.
True, but I mean the main bad guy, All For One, was literally the story for the whole time. So it really depends on which bad guy you get. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's hard to get the main one. You know what I mean? Now going to our next part, let's kind of just discuss what we've been watching recently. This can be animes, movies, or even music. Have you been watching anything recently?
Well, I travel a lot to various conventions on weekends, and that's really the time that I get to watch anything via the back of a chair. That's usually because I'm super busy normally, so I'm trapped on an airplane for 3 hours. So, gosh, what did I watch? I'm not gonna say. Hey, we were talking about things we didn't like. Cats, the musical.
Oh.
Ooh,
that was horrible.
Gloriously bad. So bad. Amazing. I was like, what am I going to watch? You know, I'm never going to watch this unless I'm trapped in this spot. So that's what I watched recently. I don't know. The classic, the last time I went out to a movie night was a little while back, but we all remember Barbenheimer, where we watched, both my wife and I, we watched, back to back Barbie and Oppenheimer. A classic combo.
Oh, was it? Okay. I didn't get to see Oppenheimer.
Yeah, Oppenheimer. Oh my God. So good. It's artistic and incredible visuals. It's kind of a slow burn, but just juxtaposing that with the Barbie movie was pretty funny.
Oppenheimer, that had Robert Downey Jr. in, right?
He did, yeah, with a bald cap, acting real good, real hard in black and white for the most of his, like, because it started moving around in time space, and sometimes whenever they would go back in time to shoot previously, it was really cool black and white sequences and stuff like that. Fantastic.
Okay, so you liked his performance?
I loved everybody in that movie. I tend to like dramas, but my gosh, just historical dramas in particular are, when you can see, you learn something fantastic. That's mostly true. There's a lot of stuff that's been kind of fictionalized, but my gosh, just learning about our strange history in the nuclear age was fascinating and frightening. One never knows how we're going to off ourselves.
Man. And then with everything going on with the world today, man, it's just, oh, Lord.
That's between me and my therapist.
Recently, I've been watching actually a lot of scary movies, but also been kind of getting into some holiday movies because I just watched The Last Holiday. I don't know if you watched that. To me, that's almost like a classic holiday movie. It has Queen Latifah in it and also LL Cool J. It's basically a story when she finds out she only has a few days to live. So she says, you know what, I'm going to take the rest of my money and live big. And I think the story is amazing. At the end, it is a Christmas story, so it finds out it was not true and it wasn't that. But just the fact that she was able to just live big and nice, I thought that was pretty cool.
I love a good Christmas movie. You know, usually it's kind of like a wonderful cotton candy kind of thing where you're vibing on, you know, just the whole Christmas spirit, and you know, you're not expecting an Oscar-worthy performance, but sometimes you get really surprised, and then you get like you know, favorites that you play every year, right?
For sure, for sure. And then just those ones that really surprise you. You'd be like, okay, you know, I don't normally watch movies or anything because a lot of times I do watch anime majority of the time. So when I actually take the time to actually watch a movie and it's good, I have to give it props because usually the only thing I watch are horror movies. And that's only because I like the fact that I don't have to think too much when I'm watching them. They're just a horror movie. You know what I mean? It's just gonna either be
It's
killing
not
or not.
necessarily my thing, but it's my sister's favorite genre, particularly schlocky horror, you know, where it's just a little over the top, a little melodramatic. She used to rent back in the day, you know, find those movies with what they call them lenticular screens where you rotate it and it's like one image and then another image. I remember it was like Murderous Snowman or something, and it was like you tilt it, it's like a happy snowman, and you tilt it's like dead murder bloody snowman. It's like, oh, that's gonna be one of my sister's kind of movies.
Oh man! And the crazy thing about them, I like watching horror movies because those are the only movies I don't care if they're bad, like if like low budget or anything. Because if I'm watching a normal movie and it's like the animation are bad or the graphics are bad, I'm like no. But a horror movie, it does not bother me.
Well, and also sometimes the best, like, what do they call it? Like gonzo type filmmakers, you know, where they're not much of a budget. It's all about creativity, right? In those films. So I like that.
I feel like they really get to show their creativity because it's like, how can I show this scene in a way that's going to be scary, but I don't have the money to show it? So now we got to go back and figure out what we can do. And I feel like a lot of people actually show their creativity. Some people you'd be like, okay. Yeah, I just threw a computer image on here. Like, no, but some of it is pretty good, though. I think I just recently watched Don't Breathe.
Sorry.
Oh,
keep going.
Go ahead.
Another movie I saw on an airplane this weekend, The Fall Guy, about stunts. You know, I don't know if you've seen that movie.
No,
it's pretty good. It's based on an old TV show from the 80s, but the actual stunts are just incredible. You should, if you look it up, there's some really great stunts, and it's about stunt people. You know, it's it's fiction, but it's pretty funny. And I for a number of years before I got into anime, I did some stunt shows, so I can appreciate like taking falls and stuff like that. Anyway, that's I saw that this weekend too on an airplane.
Sounds pretty dope. Because I mean, every time you think of stunts, you always kind of think of Tom Cruise because he's always known for doing all his stunts. And a lot of the stunts, if he actually is doing them, it's like, okay, that's crazy. You mean you really stood on the side of a plane while it's going up in the air?
I think he's got maybe like 4 good more years before the osteoporosis kicks in. Just try running, Tom Cruise.
He is really living life on the edge because I couldn't imagine being worth as much as him and like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Like, what? Man.
Yeah, he did the Olympics. He skydived. He did some skydiving just to promote the Olympics right at the end. For no reason. He just happened to be there.
I wonder if he get paid for this or if they just be offering. And you're like, you just want to skydive into the Olympics? I wasn't doing nothing. like, man. Well, all right. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our interview. For my first question, I want to ask you, when did you know you wanted to become a voice actor? And what was the driving force?
Well, I've always appreciated acting. I'm in my 40s now, but when I was a kid, I loved doing. I booked a couple of like commercials whenever I was in like middle school or early high school, late middle school, and it kind of piqued my acting bug. I was also I'm not exactly. I don't want to say too much, but I was a little bit of a deviant, and my mom got me into an arts program, a summer arts program. And just being able to do that, it gave me something to do besides just, you know, avoid life by, you know, escapism. And it got me into, like, I had a great drama teacher, and it inspired me to want to actually, you know, put my energies towards something. particularly in high school. I had an awesome drama teacher. His name was Mr. Rogers, Mr. Keith Rogers. He was awesome. And he's one of the people that got me booked on a national commercial initially. And then I was a host of like a news type program. What do they call it? Like channel. This was a long time ago when homeroom would start in class. They would have this news program where high school students would like tell the news nationally and stuff. And I did some of that. And and then not long after that, I started doing some theater. I got into that. And after maybe 1999 was the first video game voiceover that I did. I was enamored with video games like Metal Gear Solid that came out in '98. I loved the voice acting in that, and I wanted to get into something like that. But there weren't really any specific voiceover talent agents at that time for video games specifically. And so I, being the nerd that I was, I made a website on a platform called planethalflife.com because there was a new game that came out in late '98 called Half-Life. And basically I made my own acting talent agency specifically for voice acting and sound effects in video games specifically. And that led to some really fun projects back then. Way back in '99, I was in a game called Half-Life Redemption. And nowadays you'd call that like a DLC. At the time it was called like mods or whatever. And then it got released on, I did some other stuff and it got released on a disc for a game called Counter-Strike way back in the day. And then I kind of stopped. I didn't do any other voice work for about 6 or 7 more years. I got back into doing on camera where I lived in Los Angeles. It's a long story. I got edited out of all kinds of shows. You can still see me in things like Desperate Housewives, and I got cut out of House and Scrubs. You can see me a little bit left in Scrubs, but like it was really frustrating experience for me because all the stuff I did, a lot of the stuff I did got cut out. And we were talking about Christmas movies. I was still doing on camera. I was working on this Christmas movie called So This Is Christmas with Vivica A. Fox. And I was a drug dealer named Geo. Not a great movie, but it is a Christmas movie, so you give it a pass. I still get a couple of residuals on that. But anyway, one of the actors in that, he was, his name is Brian Massey, and he lived in Texas. And he said, Derick, you should really consider, maybe thinking about like getting into anime in Texas, because that's how he sounded. His voice is kind of wonderfully raspy. And he said basically there's work for video games and cartoons and production stuff from Dallas all the way down to Houston. And I was doing theater at the time. I was hustling, man. I was doing a tour. I was in a show called Peter Pan with Kathy Rigby, the Broadway version. I was an actor in that show. Shmee, a lot of musical theater stuff. And so I came to Texas with the hopes of doing theater. It kind of transformed into me doing almost exclusively voiceover because I got pretty lucky about 10 years ago when I moved in. I booked not a huge show, but I was a lead on a show for my second audition I ever did for Funimation at the time. Now it's Crunchyroll. It's a show called Noreen. And I didn't screw that up. And then I got cast in some more stuff. I think an early booking was, Fairy Tale, the very last season of that I got on. And then I booked, not long after that, I was in a Dragon Ball Super as several characters near the end of their initial run, 8 years ago. And then not long after that, I booked, because of Fairy Tale, I booked another show and then another show with that same director who ended up auditioning me for Fire Force. And it's been a weird process. I didn't expect to, as an actor, to just get into anime voice acting. I do lots of other stuff, but I'll take it. In improv they call when you're rolling with the punches, you're yes-anding. I've been yes-anding in my way to success for like 20 years, baby.
Man, that seemed like the way to go. But did you say you did a movie?
It's one way to go. Yeah, there's faster ways to do it. Yeah.
You say you did a movie with Vivica A. Fox?
Yeah, and Eric Roberts. That's Julie Roberts' brother. It was called So This Is Christmas. I played a drug dealer named after my favorite car, Geo. And you can watch it on, like I said, it's not great, but it is a movie. And I kept getting residuals because it would show up on BET every Christmas for like 5 years in a row. I was like, yeah, baby, I'll take that residuals.
Wow, that is hilarious. I definitely got to check that out. I would never expected you to have done a movie with her.
I've done lots of weird stuff over the years. You know, before anime, I was on camera actor for many years. I did a lot of background on shows. I did pilots for TV shows. I did a sketch comedy show pilot that was going to be for MTV. Like, pilots are fun because you shoot them and then they might get picked up or they might just never be seen again. And I did like 2 or 3 of those kind of projects in LA, but I got to work with some amazing people along the way.
You still get paid for those?
Some stuff, the residuals are much smaller now, but initially when they pop up, depending on the contract, yes. There's also some video games that I'm still getting paid for. Like I did, I'm a character in a show called Black Clover. I voice the captain of the Aqua Deer Squad, Real Boy Mortier, and that got picked up by, most recently, Netflix. They're doing the dub of that, and we also did the video game. There's like a mobile game that we did, and I'm getting a little bit of those residuals from time to time now. I love them. Are they a lot of residuals? No. One never knows. Sometimes if something, I'm trying to remember what one of the actors, he's like, am I going to buy a steak dinner? Or am I going to buy just a hamburger today with this residuals checks? You never know.
Well, until you open up the letter. Oh, I feel it. For my next question, I want to ask you is, what do you find most challenging and rewarding about being an actor, a voice actor?
Well, let's see. Some of the challenges, there's physical challenges with just the amount. Some anime is subtle, some anime is big, and sometimes I would say just the raw vocal challenge. I was a character in a show called Trigun Stampede named Father Nebraska. He's this old fella who talks like this. Bullets ain't cheap, you know. But then a couple episodes in, he starts firing a gun, blasting away like Danny DeVito. And he just screams nonstop. It's this blood-curdling thing. I think it's in the promo for the show. That's just like 15 seconds. It's just a 15-second scream. And you're good for about 5 seconds. You got enough juice in most people's lungs, like, ah. But this thing just goes and goes and goes and goes. So, like, I had to really prep up my lung capacity for that bad boy. So that's one of the challenges. That is like the raw challenge. And then emotional challenge. I mean, being able to see voice acting in anime is still just acting. I voiced a character recently in a show called Windbreaker. Pretty cool show. I voiced a character named Choji Tomiyama. He's basically the head of one of the rival gangs. And the arc that he goes through from being kind of like a manic ADHD, joyful, brawler who just wants to fight, to having a manic episode where he's weeping, and just going through all these levels of like, from 1 to 11, but a lot like down at 3, and trying to find interesting, emotive, contextual cues where I'm creating this. And I haven't had the chance to memorize any of these lines. This is another fun challenge in doing particularly dub type stuff. You're reading, you get to generally see a preview of what you're about to match with your mouth. And then that's it. That's the total amount of preparation you get before you jump in. It's not a bad thing. It's just kind of a stupid human trick that you learn. Juggling while you're emoting, but also matching, the animated flaps that have already been prepared in Japan. So that is probably one of the more intriguing challenges, to create something with an incredible amount of context and something that's like, wow, this is a great performance out of, sometimes out of thin air. I do a lot of preparation too. So if I can help it for that, I will do things like read the manga. And if there is a Japanese, if the Japanese version of the episode has already been released, but sometimes, you don't get that chance. So as an actor, we have these I've got a million bags of tricks that I've learned over the 20 years, where I can pull out emotive highs and lows while speed reading something that I have never really necessarily seen before. That just reads really well. How does it play? That's the most important thing, and that is quite the challenge. That hopefully I rise up to. I hope the sure. I avoid YouTube comment sections, but I do try.
I say you've lived up to your performances. What about some of the rewarding things about being a voice actor?
Well, so you record something and then you walk away. You have created something in the booth, not just with myself, but you've also got a director and an engineer. When you're battling it all out together and you create a completed product, that's a really satisfying feeling when you've probably, you've taken direction, you've done all the things you can do. And then, so that's a pretty cool feeling to know that you've conquered this particular scene together with, your group of fellow creatives. But then time can go on. Like when I did Noreen, I didn't hear it. It didn't get released. This was before streaming, so it was released on DVD before it hit. So a whole year came by before it started airing. So I had no idea. So when you actually get to hear it back, and you're like, oh, good, it's good. Oh, thank goodness. Because, as actors, we kind of hate ourselves sometimes and you don't want to watch yourself. So like after everything is said and done, sometimes you get the incredible positive feedback from your peers and people, people that are, enjoying my work. That's pretty dang satisfying. Secondarily, way after the fact, you start doing this weird, this long tail of anime, the convention world, where you actually get to meet people that have seen your shows in person, and that's pretty surreal. Mm-hmm. Because people are meeting you, and like I said, you're just reading the script, so you may not even be memorizing these lines, but along the way of doing those conventions, you get to learn what people's favorite quotes are and their favorite scenes, and then I get to go back. With that, I can rewatch it and go, oh, I can understand from their perspective now. So that's pretty satisfying too. Way after the fact, where you can kind of share in that joy with other people. Yeah.
That's pretty good. So basically getting that feedback from everybody, that's kind of a rewarding type of thing. I would think so too. Because anytime I get good comments about episodes that I've done or put out and stuff like that, it always makes me feel good.
Nice. Yeah.
For my next question, I want to ask you, the main reason I brought you on is kind of talk about your experience working on the anime Fire Force. How was that basically playing the main character, and were you surprised on how popular that anime has gotten over the years?
My little buddy Shinra Kusakabe, eh? Oh my goodness. It's been such a blessing in my life to play characters like Shinra. Particularly, the fandom has been amazing. It's been a little surreal over the years, and with season 3 on the way in 2025, it's just kind of this magical train that we as actors were never guaranteed to hop on. I know people that are way more talented than me, or are my equals, and sometimes they don't get the chance to be the leads in such properties that are like so good, like great music, great sound design, incredible animation on the fights in particular. Some of my favorite stuff. So the story about how I got cast in Fire Force. So I told you that I was in Fairy Tail. I voiced a character named Wall Ehito, where he has basically, it's in the last season. He basically kind of 3 different versions of himself. One is like this big, he kind of looks like a shark, big head. He doesn't sound like Shinra. The second character, he's like a little bit more robotic, but he's got a little bit of the grabber like this, but lower. He's got sharp little teeth. And then the third version of Wall, he's kind of a little more manic, a little closer to Shinra, but still older and way more villainous. He's the villainous version, He's shoot this big blast of a beam into the sky and laughing, and then he explodes. He dies. Spoiler. Like all good bad guys. But then later on, that director, his name is Kyle Phillips. boy, he directed me in all kinds of stuff. The very first show I ever did with him, I think that was of a kind of a bigger role, was a show that not everybody knows of, but what's it called? Dance with Devils. I had worked with him like in minor characters on stuff, and this character, he's a dog. This character's a dog. It's a Pomeranian, and I auditioned. They're singing in the show, and because of my history through musical theater, he thought of me, and I auditioned, and I sang, and he had already had. It's a pretty stacked cast, but he was like, "Oh, Derick, by the way, can you bark like a dog?" So I said, "Yeah, sure, I can bark like yeah, sure." And then I got cast as a Pomeranian. Well, 2 episodes later, he didn't realize it because they didn't have the lead on the Japanese animation yet. That character is a shapeshifter, and he's got blue hair, and he's one of those sexy boys, and he's got like 4 songs. And fortunately, I rose to that minimum. I sang, and in my opinion, one of the songs, if you find it, says like 100 Pomeranians, and they're all singing, and he's singing like K-pop, and it's crazy. And I did really good on that episode, and then he booked me in Fairy Tale, and then he brought me in to audition for Fire Force. And I didn't know too much about the show, but I did my audition. He said, "So that wall character, I wonder if you can make it just a little bit, what do you call it? A little younger." And so I did that and brought it up to about 15, and just kind of kept that light little smokiness and maybe 1% Clint Eastwood. And he said, "Hey, that's great. Would you be available?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so then I got an email, and I also read for a couple of other characters, including Arthur and some other minor characters. And so I got an email booking about being notified that if I would be available for 2 hours for Fire Force. And I was like, it doesn't say what character. So I come in that day, and I'm talking with Kyle. I was like, "Kyle, who am I?" Come on. He's like, "Do you want to know who it is?" I was like, "Well, I hope. I mean, I don't want to be, big headed, but I would hope that maybe Shinra's like, 'Yeah, buddy.' And then he told me it was mine to lose because he had me in mind, which is really, really sweet." Oh. And so we did that. We did the whole first season, and it was great. 26 episodes, and then we did the next season. Half of the second season, halfway through, we hit the pandemic, and then we recorded from my walk-in closet for about half of that. And then I had a studio specially built to record the rest of the second season. And then we've taken a little break, and I've been waiting patiently for a little Shinra Kusakabe to make a return. And then they made the wonderful announcement recently about season 3. So I'm pretty happy.
Yes, for sure. Because I was like, they just ended it right at a point where you're like, I know there's more story. Like, come on, where's the rest?
There's a lot more story to tell. And Atsushi Okubo, he decided to, officially wrap it up in the manga. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it's going to be great. You're going to love it. And it's going to, if it does end the way it's written, it's beautiful. It's going to be amazing. It's like the opposite of Game of Thrones TV show. It's the best kind of ending that you want.
Yes, so you got all this hype built up for years. You actually gonna get a good ending. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Do you got any favorite moments from the show?
Well, you would think that there's some glorious fights in the series. Just once again, there's some great screaming and fighting and doing all those big classic shonen type moments. But for me, there's a couple of great moments that whenever Shinra's character is becoming, he's convincing his brother Sho to realize where he is, and come back into the fray. And those quieter moments when the emotions aren't getting loud, but they're getting intense in those times. Those are some of my favorite. Mm-hmm. And also whenever Shinra is building his other family with Company 8, there's just the little tiny moments, like when we're making dinner. I love those times when everybody's just the quieter parts of themselves mingling with each other in a loving way. And those personally are my favorite moments. But in terms of silliness, I also love the silly stuff, like when Shinra and Arthur are being happy little, basically like angry little siblings at each other. Those are also some of my favorites. Oh, Onion Head! And there's a lot of favorites, but yeah, probably my most favorite is just the family building, the quieter stuff, where the emotions are, more sincere. Those are my favorites. As an actor.
Okay. I have to say some of my favorite scenes would probably have to be some of the scenes with him fighting, because just the fact
Captain
that
Burns, that's one of my favorites.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, so good.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
For my next question, I want to ask you: do you think there's any misconceptions about voice acting?
Well, I get a lot of people this is an interesting thing about going to conventions, because a decent amount of people will come up and ask, how do I become an anime voice actor? And that's the wrong way to look at it. Because you don't know, as an actor, you are not in charge of being cast in projects. You can audition. You can submit yourself for stuff. Like how I got in, the thing that started getting the ball rolling for me in anime was having a really strong demo reel. And that reel was submitted to, say, a casting director. And then that casting director sent me auditions. And then I auditioned. And then you send those auditions off. And maybe 1 in 10, if you're lucky as an actor, you will get those roles. So just only aiming at anime is a pretty limiting thing, because one, apart from the convention side, it's one of the lower paying voiceover gigs in the market. Like I get way more for, say, the commercials that I do. I do lots of commercials and other projects that, there's no glory in that though. You do one regional, one national commercial, those residuals, like what we were talking about earlier with that movie, those residuals are in the thousands of dollars just, after you do it. And a good national commercial, you can make up to like, 20, 30 grand with anime. You're making generally, if it's a non-union, and a lot of anime is non-union, some union projects I've had the opportunity to work on, but, you're getting a pretty decent hourly rate, but then after that, you don't get any of those residuals per se. So you're only making that, couple $100, $300, $400, $500 for one episode. As I've gone on, and I'm very grateful that I get to work on a lot of projects. And so it adds up. And then, I've been very lucky to have, my little buddy Shinra, he's got a Funko Pop and stuff like that. And so there's this long magical tale of anime that's, it's been pretty good to me. But only thinking about being a voice actor in anime is pretty limiting. Like there's so many other ways to be, and you're not just doing somebody's voice. You're not just making, I get a lot of people that, I can sound like Homer. Well, great. There's already a Homer. Why are you trying to do that? Sound like something original. Sound something creative. Be directable. And to be directable is not just to come out of nowhere. You have had to gain all these tools from your actor's toolbox over the, one of the sayings is it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Sometimes longer, or sometimes never. So you have to be okay with no. And I've got a really thick skin now, just from, my time in the industry. Nothing phases me. Nothing bothers me. I do my submissions. I audition. I go in and nail it. Or I got to be okay with not being cast at all. Sometimes you submit stuff, you never hear back. Or I'll tell you, so I'm in a show called Chainsaw Man. As a smaller character, we pop up at the end of season 1. He's Beam, the Shark Fiend. He's Denji's like BFF forever. And there's some great art about, because he can shapeshift into a gigantic 3-eyed shark. But my audition for that show, I got the original sides for Denji, like a whole bunch of actors. Thousands of actors got these auditions. And then you submit and you forget it. And then you get a callback. I got a callback for Denji. And then, I submitted for that. And then I got another call back for that. And that's the problem as an actor. You've got to be okay with never getting anything. But once you start to taste it, you're like, oh man, I love this part. And then I did my third audition and then I didn't hear anything. And I was okay with that because, we audition constantly. But it was a great delight when I got a call to come in for the very end of the first season with some really great stuff to come in Chainsaw Man. And Beam has got some great storytelling to come. And there's a lot of, I'm really looking for, I don't know how much we can talk about it, but I think that they've already announced a movie. And I'm pretty sure that it's inevitable that another season's, I'm not saying anything official, but things are looking good.
I'm pretty sure with the ratings, I'll be surprised if it doesn't get a season 2, but I'm pretty sure.
It's inevitable. I'm not saying it is though. Don't sue me, guys. I've signed so many NDAs.
Well, the next anime I wanted to talk about, for my next question, basically, you played in the anime Kaiju number 8 and also Windbreaker, two animes that have recently gotten a lot of good ratings and fan reaction. Were you surprised on their popularity? And also, what was the recording process for those?
So for Kaiju number 8, much like Chainsaw Man, I got an audition for several of the characters. And I just, sent those off and then forgot about it. And then one day I got a call about coming on. I voiced a character named Mizoguchi. He's the boss of the cleanup crew for Kaiju number 8. And he's a really funny character. He's so dry and, he's like one of those bosses where, he's like, it's like someone's got a case of the Mondays, that kind of guy. And I knew it was going to be amazing. Once I saw just the character art for that show, I was like, oh man, this is going to be good. It looks so fantastic.
Oh, it looks amazing.
And once it started airing, I mean, you're seeing toys all over the place. It's just great. There's more to come for that also. And while, I'm not going to say like my character is getting any like Funko Pops for that guy, but it is a lot of fun. I love popping on to the crew and he's great. I love everybody on my side of that cleanup crew. For all the actors particularly, we occasionally get together and stuff like that, and everybody's fantastic. Sean Gann's the ADR director for that show, and I love his casting choices, and everybody's killer on that show. Now for Windbreaker, that was an interesting one because I didn't audition for that show. That show was ADR directed, the English, by Jeremy Inman. And if you know Fire Force, that is Captain Obi in Fire Force. Yeah, he's the guy that works out every day. I haven't done a huge amount of shows with him. I think I've done Golden Kamui and I want to say Pop Team Epic. I've done some stuff with him on that show and some other smaller shows. But coming into Windbreaker, I didn't quite when I got the casting notice that I was asked to accept the role. I started doing deep research, and I was like, as soon as I read any of the what I could about him, he just resonated so much. His energy is so amazing, and I had done so much prep work by the time I had actually come in for the first session. And I had ideas, and Jeremy had some great ideas, and it was just just rolling off of each other. That you never know how it's going to go in the recording session because I've worked with so many directors over the years. I'm very lucky, but every director's kind of has a different style. Some are like one take and that's it. Some people are like 25 takes, and they're not. You never know what they're going to give you in terms of feedback. But that one in particular, he kind of laid out what his hopes for it were, and he said, "Derick, I'm gonna be honest. I've had you as this character for months now. I've been sitting on this casting. I didn't tell you." I was like, "Well, thank you. That's really nice." And he's crazy, and the fights are so good. And I was talking about the manic episode, like whenever Choji Tomiyama in Windbreaker, whenever he goes in, like he gets a freaking concussion on his head and goes into this this headspace where he's talking about his past and his baggage that he's got attached to why he is who he is. Now that was it was like a full meal just eating that. That was one of my favorite. Choji in particular was one of my favorite performances to do in anime in the last like 5 years. He's so sincere but manic and just joyful, and to be able to, like, he starts out as, is he a bad guy? We were talking about bad guys in anime. I mean, he's a nemesis, but then the way
an antagonist.
But then after he gets a beating, but he doesn't go down. He doesn't end it. Like, he becomes respectful, and he becomes basically like super friendly with the other side, and he brings all of his team over to give them the love to the other side as much as they deserved. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like, that is a cool arc. Like, he doesn't have like the mean baggage of being defeated, because he's still got they have brought him the joy of why he fights. I thought that was super cool. Yeah. And so, like, I've got more to look forward with his character. And I found out, because we were talking about Denji, the actor in the Japanese, is the voice actor of Denji that voiced Choji Tomiyama. So, like, I love those little circles of life too. So yeah, it was a great challenge, and his performance in the Japanese version is amazing. I wanted to bring it up to that, and I feel like I did just watching it. But I want to be humble. Like, the internet probably disagrees, but I loved it. It was one of my favorites.
Okay. Since we're talking about anime, let's continue. For my next question, you also played a very important character in Blue Lock. How do you feel you relate to that character, and were you a fan of soccer before that role?
Yes, first for soccer. Yes, there's actually some of us fellow voice actors in the Dallas area. We have a little soccer club that we scrimmage and we play even before Blue Lock, and so it's fun. It's physical. I love seeing how everybody works and seeing the quirks of people's. I'm 5'5", so I run really fast and I've got little legs as I zip around on the field. But to be cast in Blue Lock was incredible. I mean, that we were talking about my favorite moments, particularly in Blue Lock. Ego, that first monologue where he comes out, check, let's see, and then he just goes right in to ramping people up. Is he a bad guy? No. Is he kind of a cult leader-y type? Yes. So finding those spaces where he does not treat these kids terribly well during, a lot of the moments in that, but does he do it to make them better? Yeah. And I mean, as the show goes on later and as story beats come on, he's a man with a plan. He's crazy. I love his highs and lows because he can go pretty subtle, but he's a maniac when he really gets into it. His eyes get all glazy, and one of the favorite things about voicing a character like Ego is it's kind of opened up other things for me, because his voice, whenever the day we started recording on the process, I was pitching Jonathan Rigg is the director on that, and I had worked with him on a couple of things, but not that many things. He was kind of a newer director at Crunchyroll, and but he had heard me. I had auditioned. I can't remember if I even auditioned for Ego. I may have. I auditioned for some other projects, but he brought me in, and we just started hammering out this first part of the monologue. And I had an idea where I was going because I had already delved into the manga. Once I found out who Ego was, I was like, oh man, I was the cult leader vibes. I was using that long neck to, I lowered my register to basically where when I wake up in the morning, I sound like a bear. like a grumpy, grumpy little man. And when I'm happy, as you can hear, I voice a lot of, fluty little high pitched characters. But there's this fun, like the psychosis of the actor is sometimes whenever I'm like ordering at a fast food restaurant and my high voice, my youthful, my happiness, it comes through and they're like, anything else, ma'am? And then my voice suddenly shoots to ego. That's my voice. That's the voice. It's like, yes, I'd actually like a large fry, please. That voice right there, make like he's cranky and he's driven and he's confident. So taking that, my own baggage, putting that into ego, and then just finding these, oh my God, it's like a roller coaster. That first monologue, those, it's like epic. It's one of the most epic. I get people still today when I do conventions, they want me to break them down so that I can lift them back up. Oh, do you want to be the world's greatest striker? Do you want to be that unpolished gem? You can be, but first, I have to break you, It's so fun. And it's constant bad guy monologues, right? Like, you're chewing that delicious stuff. And one of the glorious things is quite often, I don't know, because he's kind of like the narrator of the show in a way. So sometimes you don't have to find flaps. I'm not matching flaps. And those are my favorite parts where I can really kind of chew a little bit, slightly different than what you would imagine the Japanese to do. And the director, the English director, he's put, I love the dub. I love the Japanese version of Blue Lock, but the English dub is like, it's got a different kind of melodrama to it, the way it's been directed. And it matches something, a vibe, so gloriously just watching it. I love watching both because they have a different vibe. And the director, Rig, man, he's taken it. I remember I was hoping that it would work. And then like on Reddit or whatever, somebody was sharing all this stuff. Like they were just loving the English dub. And I can't tell you how many times on TikTok people will like, because I'm on TikTok. Everybody's on TikTok. But people are resharing particularly parts of that monologue, that it's part of their workout music. They've got it in their remixes and stuff, so they'll work out harder. And that's weird. That's a surreal part of working in voiceover where you can hear something like, whoa, man, makes me want to do some crunches. Let's do this, ego.
Wow, that's amazing. It just shows you how much of an influence your characters can have on people.
It's weird. I love it. Yeah, it's very surreal.
But my next question I want to ask you, I'm going to ask you. I was going to skip this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. How do you feel about the animation of this season of Blue Lock?
Well, I'm not going to go negative. We all see what's happened in the first couple episodes. It's the art direction is still incredible. Like if you look and compare to the manga, it's amazing. Here's what happened. Yeah, I don't want to get into the negative, but like it was so popular. Blue Lock was so popular. They went ahead and pushed right into the movie, and then like how many months later we're on to season 2 already? Like maybe could I imagine an alternate universe where they could have let it cook for another 7 or 8 months, maybe? But like now that we're getting into the actual U20 style, like it's looking fantastic. And in terms of voice acting, Ego is very well animated. I don't know if you're watching it. Every little spindly motion, like they're spending the extra dime on Ego. So I'm pretty lucky. And I don't know. It's not quite the same animation as season 1, but it's a different vibe, and I'm still liking it. Like I love it. It particularly now that we've gotten into like episode 6 and 7. Like I'm really liking what's happening. So yeah, I'm loving what's up now. So would I be making the same choices? I don't know. I mean, I like to work, so I'm happy that they started the season. Yeah. How about you? I don't want to get too negative because I love what I do. I love it. I love what I do.
Personally, I haven't watched it yet because just all the news of it having bad animation. I just don't want to put that into my head because season 1 was so good. Like when I watched season 1, I was so surprised that an anime about soccer could have as much hype feel as an anime of like an action anime. So it was
Right.
but then to go from that season to this season, and you're like, this was like highly anticipated, and it just
I would
felt like
also
they dropped
say
it.
that if you wrap your brain around it a little differently, like there's a lot of this going on the field. It's very slow. What I imagine, I mean, it in my mind's eye when I'm watching it, it works for me because how do you have a 4-minute monologue about how this guy's running over here without doing this, right? So there's a lot, like most of what's happening is now on the field and not just in the locker room. So like there's a, because it's not even necessarily frozen, it's just moving very slowly because he's fully matrixed.
Okay.
So like to me, I like it. I can understand where people are coming from, but I'm still digging it. I feel like there was like one, like maybe I can't even remember, like the second episode. There was a lot of pausing, but it was I felt like it was a storytelling element. But yeah, that's not for. Yeah.
Well, my next question I want to ask you: what emotion do you find hard to portray?
What emotion do I find hard to portray? I mean, I don't know if I just love a good challenge as an actor. Sincerity is, I wouldn't say it's hard per se, but I love rising to an authentic moment in voice. But nowadays I kind of lean heavy into voiceover. So like, I love, I intentionally move away from what people expect anime reads to be, like there's kind of like in cartoons and stuff, there's kind of a heightened state of what you're saying. And we're going over there and it's going to be there, Me personally, I love a natural read, like it's coming from a real person. So sometimes, if I'm directed to go big, I'll go big. I can go to 11. But I love the challenge of finding complexity, enjoyability, energy, but in something that's a little bit more subdued. Like it's a great challenge for me. Does it necessarily? Do people read that like whenever they're watching? I don't know, because what matters at the end of the day is how is it perceived? Is it enjoyable? How does it play? I guess that's what we say as actors. How does it play? How is it observed? Because we're putting in all like our method acting stuff or whatever. And some people don't. I've got so many tools. I'm not a method actor, but we're using all these things to try to create a great performance. But what really matters is how does the audience at home love it? If they're buying it. I'll give one example. There's a show that's not super popular that I was a lead on called Sunny Boy. My gosh, the energy there was a lot of silence in the show. Talk about slowly animated. There were scenes where it's just like the world is moving like this. There's almost no music. Sometimes none. No music. It's just like the sound of the ocean or something for like minutes. Wow. And then to come in, it's a really good show. It's great. It's like, man, it's really trippy. It's a brain bender near the end. And we were just finding these incredibly like super subtle moments. And that doesn't often happen in anime, but I love it when a story can be told going on the subtle side of something. And that's my favorite because sometimes you have to push because people have expectations. So yeah, maybe that.
Okay. All right. We're winding down to our last 3 questions. For my next question, I want to ask you, is there anyone you would want to shout out for being a good support system for you over the years? And also, would you like to explain why having a good support system is important?
Well, let's see. I'm gonna shout out some voice actors that are up and coming or that have done some great stuff that have been great to me over the years as nice humans. So we were talking about great fights between Captain Burns. Great dude, Phil Parsons. He's the voice actor behind Captain Burns in Fire Force. We have worked years before doing anime, we were doing live theater and kind of some improv dinner theater shows and stuff like that. And being able to rise up the ranks, as actors and continuing to find success together, that's trippy and amazing. I'm so happy when I see that kind of stuff happen. Like he's also in Dragon Ball and stuff. He's amazing. Phil Parsons is a stud. Like I was talking about teachers. My favorite teacher, Keith Rogers, he gave me the ability to understand how I could be a successful actor. He took me to speech tournaments in high school, and he's no longer with us. But like, man, I love Keith Rogers. He's the best. Another great drama teacher that I grew up with, Billy Sue Thompson. She still does acting coaching, and she's amazing. She worked on the summer arts program whenever I was a little deviant, trying to get out of, trying to find ways to skip school and whatnot. And she gave me a reason to go to school, and that was to act and be in the drama club and stuff like that. So I'm incredibly thankful for people like that. New up and comers, a cool dude named Jordan Dash Cruz. He's in some pretty cool stuff these days. He in Blue Lock, when we were doing that first monologue, he was, I'm going to call it assistant directing for some of that stuff. And he pulled some really great stuff out of me during those performances. Like the undercurrent of incredibly talented people everywhere that is making the dream possible. Yeah. And other cool dudes like Nassim Belkanor. He just recently became Mini Piccolo in the new Dragon Ball Daima. We 2 years ago at a anime convention, he was getting back. I don't know how long he'd been doing voice work, but he was trying. I think he had just booked his first anime gig. It may have been like what they call Walla, and we hung out and talked for like an hour in the green room, just talking about getting into anime and like the trials and tribulations and stuff. And to see him find success like that is pretty satisfying. I love to see that kind of stuff. And I think it was his birthday this week. So yay to see him.
I get to talk to him on Saturday, so that's
cool.
Funny you bring him
Yeah,
up.
he's pretty cool. And he dresses real snazzy. I love his scarves. I can't pull off scarves like that.
Anyone else you want to shout out, or
any
wife or kids? One time.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be here without my wife. My wife, Samantha. My last name is Snow. Samantha Snow. Whenever I was trying to get out of my day job, I found out about an audition for Peter Pan. She enabled me because she had she went to a great musical theater school called OCU in Oklahoma. So she knew how to enable me. I went to an audition. She gave me some sheet music to read and memorize, and I did that audition, and I got a call back and another call back and another call back. And then I ended up doing Peter Pan with Kathy Rigby for a number of years, going to places like Branson, Missouri and other places. And without her enabling me over the years, because she helped me, I didn't know too much about musical theater. She got me where I am. So thanks. And she's an amazing singer and performer as well. She's always doing something better than me, particularly on stage. Thanks, honey. And my dogs, they're precious. They're just good support buddies. Einstein and Bogey.
Oh, those are some amazing names.
Yeah.
What kind of dogs are they?
They're both rescues. Einstein is like a Shih Tzu mix. And Bogey, his full name is Flumfrey Bogart. He's a mix of some kind of mini Aussie and something else. Who knows what? But they're beautiful. Bogey's about 10 and Einstein's about 5. And they're very goofy, good buddies.
As of right now, what do you consider your best performance?
So I'll say Fire Force has been the best to me in terms of being an anime voice actor. I have gotten to do some great performances through that show. What I always consider to be my best performance is the one that I'm doing right now. Whatever character I'm currently invested in. So it's hard for me to I I don't really do favorites or numbers or anything.
I thought you were gonna say talking to me was your.
I want my absolute best to be right now. There's shows like Blue Lock that I'm currently working on. I'm loving Ego. Like just Saturday, like we just released whatever episode that is, maybe episode 6, I think, of the latest season of season 2. And man, he talks for like 80% of that episode, and it's glorious. There's some great highs and lows again. Like it's really good, and it's really well animated because we're talking about Ego. He looks so good. And then I'm working on a show called Delico's Nursery, where I'm the lead in the show. It's not a huge show with a lot of back end support, but it's about vampires, and it's a different range and a different emotional state than I often get cast in, which is I love that challenge. And yeah, and then some other projects that I'm working on, and I love them because it gives me something to look forward to, and it gives me a chance to prepare. And yeah, that's what I want. I want a good challenge as an actor. So right now.
Okay. That's funny because when you first said that, right now, I thought you were gonna say "Talking to Me" was your best performance, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
You're great. This isn't a performance. This is just me being me. That's no performance.
But my next question and my last question, basically, is kind of follow up to something you kind of said earlier. Basically, do you have any advice for anybody that wants to become a voice actor? Is there any best routes they should go? Should they go to school? Should they pay for classes or anything like that? What would you say?
There are as many ways to be a successful voice actor as there are voice actors. It's less than 1% of those people who want to be will find success. Even if you may get cast in something, that may be your only success. Success is not guaranteed in the acting world. But trying to be the best version of you, just being yourself along the way, that's really important. Don't step on anybody, because being a jerk, as you're rising your way to the top, people talk and that gets back to you. You can't have a long career if you're not a nice person. I find, the more I work, all these great people, they're in these great shows because they're great actors, one, but also they're like, I couldn't even tell you, like, the percentage of people that aren't amazing humans in general are like infinitesimal compared to the amazing hearts that I get to work with in the industry. So be a good person. Be directable. If that means taking classes, that's great. If you've never done any acting per se, it's two different types of work, being an actor and being a voice actor, because you got to learn your technical stuff, distance, how to not say your P's and B's into the microphone, how to understand breath control. That could be from musical theater. That's my path that led into really finding success, in voice acting. I have so many warm-ups, but I know people who didn't do any of that. Like, you've got your awesome actors like Sarah Roach. I think that she's in Fire Force. I want to say Maki, and that was her first anime role.
Wow,
she hadn't done
okay.
any other acting. I mean, maybe some theater or whatever, but like, you never know. I guess the important thing is to you got to be in it to win it. You got to, at the very minimum, create a demo reel. Some people have agents. I have a couple, but I didn't go through an agent for my initial anime voiceover roles. I went directly to those studios with my demo reels, just cold calling, cold emailing, finding them on lists and stuff like that. Finding a support network is incredibly helpful. Just not just schmoozing. Don't be at the same time, it's good to have a support network, but don't make friends just to be a voice actor, because that's inauthentic. If you're only doing it to feed off of other people, that's not the way to go either. I see those people too. Just be yourself. Try to find a way to keep yourself inspired. Motivate yourself, because in acting, you've got to be self-motivated, because you are your own boss. If you don't work, it's not necessarily your fault, but if you aren't auditioning and you aren't submitting, like, you've got to continue to find your ways to inspire yourself along the way. And I'd say, do what you love. And if you can't do what you love for a living, find a way to make your money, but also, find time to do things like this that you love. Like I was acting for years in theater, not for money, but because I loved to perform. I love to act. I love to read lines and do Shakespeare and stuff like that. Just find a way to love it also, because you may not be making money initially or for a long time. Don't get into it for money. That's silly. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any ambitions or goals that are yet to fulfill in the field of voice acting?
Well, I mean, it never stops. Like auditioning, you never know how big or high up on the scale of success we are as actors. Like what I did like 4 years ago, that could be my high point. But then you hop on something else. Just keep going. If you stop interacting with the world, that's when it stops. Okay. So just don't stop, because you never know what the greatest success will be. I thought my best success was going to be a musical that got me out of my day job. In Peter Pan, 15 years ago. I thought this is amazing. This is as good as it gets. Nope. It got worse and it got better and it got worse and it got better. That's acting. So just keep it up. In terms of dream roles, I don't necessarily have dream roles like I see in anime and go, I want to be on, because as an actor, I'm not in charge of casting myself. But I would love to do a project where I'm every character on a show. That would be wild. I want to do something like that because I have kind of a crazy range. So I would love to be as many characters as possible in one show. That would be pretty cool.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Kind of like an Eddie Murphy thing.
Something like that. Yeah, why not? I'll be the clone.
Would you want to work do a Disney movie or something like that?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to do, I still do what I call, on camera, I do, TV and film. So I would love to work with other, great actors along the way. I live in Texas these days, so that's a little trickier, but I give myself the ability to get out to LA and work on projects. Yeah, one never knows. I just yes and. If I see the possibility and it's within my means, like if I'm available, yep, I'll do that.
Sure.
Why not?
And with that, we end today's episode. But if you have a question for me or for another voice actor that may come on, this is a new segment I've been added on.
Oh, what question? Let me think.
I have Nassim coming on. You can have a question for him.
Okay. Nassim. What has been? I mean, Dragon Ball Daima is quite the project, and there's a lot to look forward to with him. What? Because I got into voice work for about 15% just to have toys of characters that I voice. This room is filled with junk. Wonderful, wonderful anime stuff. What kind of toy would he like to have the most?
Okay.
Does he want one that talks or something? That would be pretty cool.
Okay. I'll let him know that you asked the question, and when I get an answer, I'll send you the episode. Before we go, I just want to thank you for all the amazing work that you have done and for bringing some of our favorite characters to life, and also for coming on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I love shooting the breeze, talking about the process.
And with that, we end today's episode. Again, I just want to thank my guests for coming on and chatting it up with me. Had a lot of fun and learned so much more about the industry of voice acting. And hopefully you listeners did too. Before we close out, I just want to allow my guests the opportunity to plug themselves, basically tell the audience where they can find you. Basically give us your social media information.
Well, if you know how to spell my name, that helps. It's Derick Snow. There's 20 ways to misspell Derek. But I'm on all the thingies. My biggest is probably TikTok, and then the slowly dying X. I moved over like everybody else. I'm on the other ones too. I'm there. And then just DerickSnow.com. I've got links to everything. If you want to see some cool demo reels or try to find me for conventions, you can find more information about that. Because I love seeing people in person. I've been going out more and more ever since, the last 2 or 3 years out to conventions. And if you live in a fun place, feel free to please request me. I'm like a vampire. The only way I can go to your convention is if I'm invited in. So I'd love to see you.
For sure. I might have to try to get you requested over here in Cincinnati. I don't know if you've been here. And with that, I just want to say, peace!